Hey everybody, Marcus C. Williams here, and I want to talk about the Second Amendment in New York State right now and what's going on. Kathy Hochul, the High Priestess Governor Kathy of New York State, has said that she wants to make it so that no New Yorkers are able to buy any type of ammunition from other states. Now, not only is this a violation of many different laws, both federal and as far as interstate commerce goes, but it's also completely outrageous. At what point did New York State become the ruling state for the whole nation? At what point did the High Priestess Governor Kathy of New York State become Empress High Priestess of the United States? When did that happen? That Kathy decides that she can control what every other state does. Can you make that make sense to me? I do recall that when the Supreme Court overturned some of New York State's extremely crazy, restrictive Second Amendment, just the Second Amendment, I don't know what you want to call them, bastardizations, terrible laws, evil practices, but they were bad, and they got overturned by the Supreme Court, making it so that instead of it being a may-issue state, that we now have to be a shall-issue state, because they tried to make this one man not be able to get a gun, and they told him he had to justify why he needed one, and the Supreme Court said that's unconstitutional. And I'm minimizing a whole bunch of factors in there, the fact that the guy was a hunter and all this other stuff, blah, blah, blah. But there's a lot that goes around behind that. But long story short, they changed that. And Kathy was like, oh no, we can't let the Supreme Court of the United States of America dictate to New York State, even though they're over New York State and over me, because I won't let them do that, because I am the doo-doo and I am gonna do whatever I want to. Absolutely abhorrent, absolutely egregious, absolutely unacceptable. Okay. The second that she said that she was going to do whatever she wants, and she said this publicly, this is on TV, this is recorded, like she actually said this stuff is crazy. She said that she's going to completely do whatever she wants, regardless of what the Supreme Court said. And it's not the state Supreme Court, it's the United States Supreme Court. The Supreme Court of everybody. Okay? In the whole country. It's a problem. It's a very, very, very serious issue. She says she'll do whatever she wants. So since that time, they've continued to make, and this was only like, what, a year ago? Maybe a year and a half? Okay? No, I think maybe 2 years. Might have been about 2 years now. But regardless, after that point, they continued to insert more and more restrictions on firearms, on ammunition, and now they got all these ridiculous ammunition, bogus things where you got to get a background check for ammunition and stuff like that. It's crazy. California had a similar thing, and California's background checks on ammunition just got overturned. California took it to the state Supreme Court, and it got overturned because what California, the state, cited in their case, saying that they have a history of putting these types of laws in place, and that was their case for saying, oh, we can have background checks limiting ammunition. And the cases that they all put forth were all things that basically said this, and this is not a joke, you can go look this up, and it was basically cases that denied firearms to black Americans, to those who were slaves or former slaves, to Native Americans or American Indians, and that is insane. And the Supreme Court looked at this, they said, you mean to tell me that you're bringing us some racist laws, and you want us to use these racist laws to say, yeah, this law that you're putting here is okay? Absolutely not. That's not okay. And it goes back to what I say continuously. All gun control is racist. The whole concept and conceptualization of gun control, of firearms control, is to prevent black people, okay, from owning firearms. All of these things came about after the Civil War. That's what, well, there were ones before that time also, during slavery time, and when black people couldn't get them. But again, still the same type of concept. Okay? It's very, very serious. It's very serious. And now they're trying to use those type of laws to apply to everybody. Because they don't want you to own a firearm. Because if you did, maybe you could stop the government from doing stuff that the government ain't got no business doing, like trying to come up in your house and do all types of crazy stuff, because it's coming. You know it's coming. I don't have to. It's only a matter of time at this point, unless we stand up now and work to prevent it very rapidly in succession, because it's coming very, very soon if you're paying attention to what's going on. But it's not just that, right? We can see with our eyes and with our wallets what's actually going on. The tyranny of the government and the oppressive regime that is in office on our state level and on our federal level, especially in New York State, which is where I am, and the federal government of the United States in which I live, is too much. The tyranny is too large. It's unacceptable. Over the last couple of years, more and more laws in New York State have been put in place, making it more restrictive and more difficult and more costly and more time-consuming for regular law-abiding citizens to be able to afford, time-wise or money-wise, to actually be able to own a firearm. They've made it more cost-prohibitive. If you're somebody that is in the working class or in poverty and lives in a high crime neighborhood, because guess what? Who normally lives in a working class or impoverished neighborhood, and how much extra free time and money do they have? Generally, it's not that much. So they raise the cost of the permitting. They raise the amount of time that's required for it. So it really prevents people that live in the highest crime neighborhoods, even more so, to be able to defend themselves from criminals. So if somebody make sense to me, right? The people who would need it most are having the most difficulty getting it. The small business owner that owns their small business and they have to work there all week by themselves or maybe with one family member, now it puts an extra financial burden on them, and they have to take more time out of their business to try to do that. People, you gotta wake up. This restriction of the Second Amendment in New York State is absolutely abysmal. I live in Rochester, New York. We've got some crazy, crazy strict gun laws here, okay? And they're on the state level, they're on the city level, but it's crazy, right? And here's the problem. All of these firearms issues and shootings and illegal firearms that are taken off the street and stuff like that, most of the illegal firearms that are taken off the street are illegal by New York State standards for the type of weapons that can be sold in New York State, which means that they do not come from here. So where the heck did they come from? But more so, we're not even going to talk about that. If that's what's going on, then how come a regular law-abiding citizen who would have a gun that is regulated by the state, which I'm not for that either, but would have a gun that is that fits the categories of the regulations of the state, how come they're not able to have one? Why? When all the guns out here they're like clips of like 20, 30 or extended magazines, and I mean magazines, not clips, but some people call them clips, but they're called magazines, but it is what it is, right? You've got guns that aren't even legal in New York State that are out here that are being collected or used in crime. But they don't want you to be able to defend yourself. You make it make sense to me. I believe very firmly, and you can hold me to this, I believe very, very, very firmly that it should not cost you to get a permit for your firearm. Honestly, I believe in constitutional carry, that you shouldn't have to have a permit to carry a firearm, because you shouldn't, because the Constitution is your permit. It says that you should be able to own a firearm, and that right should not be infringed upon. But we are seeing more and more infringements by New York State every day. Why? Whose interest is that in? It's not in the interest of the everyday citizen. We were having I do this work with this group that does stuff for the city that is looking into stuff that's about gun violence or whatever the case is. And they had the what is he? I want to say he's a captain. Forgive me if I'm incorrect there. Maybe he's a deputy chief, whatever. So either way. But they came and they were talking about all the guns that they took off the street or whatever the case is, or that have been involved in crimes or whatever. And I asked a question. I said, how many of those guns were legally registered firearms to the person that used them? None. Zero. Absolutely zero firearms offenses have been committed in the city of Rochester in the last forever by legal law-abiding firearms owners. This is very serious. Because if regular registered firearm owners aren't committing any crimes with firearms, why are we putting these restrictions on them? That is something for you to think about. These are reasons why we need to stand up and push back against this type of stuff. The city of Rochester and the county of Monroe County that I live in, they should offset the costs of firearm permitting and the cost of the fingerprinting and everything else. They should pay for that because every single citizen deserves to own a firearm and defend themselves. It's in our Constitution. It's the Second Amendment. It's right after the first one. Okay? First one's free speech, freedom of religion, freedom to redress your government with your grievances. Second one, right to freedom and right to own firearms, and freedom and right to create a militia to protect yourself from marauders, criminals, and tyrannical government. That's it. You guys sit with that, think about it. I'll catch you guys later. Remember, stand up, speak up, and don't shut up. Take action. Be blessed and be well.